Are you tired of missing out on all of those exclusive Godzilla figures? Don't worry anymore, Big Bad Toy Store has you covered with every single exclusive Godzilla figure possible that you can imagine. Good example, they have the Monsterarts Godzilla Ultima, which is an exclusive figure, and Big Bad Toy Store has you covered with every single exclusive Godzilla figure, statue, toy that you could possibly imagine. So what are you waiting for? Use my link in the description down below to shop there. Thank you for watching.
I think I'm destined to win it. They playing games, I ain't in it. Yeah, yeah. I took the message and sent.
Well, do my first impressions, I did notice that one of the pistons is actually broken. Just so you guys can see the difference. This one is not broken. This one is broken right there. So that's really unfortunate because it came out of the box actually broken, and that's really unfortunate for me. It's probably hard to tell, but you guys can see right here, this area is broken, while this one is perfectly fine. So that's a down part. My name is Ruby Gaming X, and today I will be reviewing the S.H.Monsterarts Mechagodzilla 2021. This time, this has been a very long-awaited figure, and lots of people are really asking themselves, is the price point really worth it? What exactly is this figure going to offer to the market? Now, I'm going to give you guys my thoughts, the positives, and then the negatives, so you guys can really think about it if you really want to purchase this. This is currently still not out in the US or Godzilla Ultima. This is the Japanese version, and let's get right into it. Well, I want to get right into articulation before anything. We're going to take a look at the top section for articulation. That's how much the head can go up, that's how much it can go down. The next section does have some movement. You guys can move it left to right, and it is divided into 3 different sections: first, second, and third section. The mouth can actually open really wide. That's not how wide it can actually open. It can go even more. You guys can see that's the widest. So it does have a pretty much decent range of articulation in the mouth section. Now in this section, the missiles do go up and down. As you guys can see, you guys do have some movement right there, and they do actually open. So one of them is closed, this one is a closed one. This one has the missiles display opened, and you guys can see exactly how that looks right there. and they do go. You guys can actually close them, but it is quite difficult. You guys have to keep on trying multiple times. It's not the easiest, but there you go. I just opened this section right there. When it comes for movement, you guys can see that inside of this section, whenever you do move the arms and the hands, they go in and out, which is really awesome. Now, articulation all the way around the figure is going to be extremely stiff, because around those areas is where the die cast is actually being used. So you're not really getting ball joints, but more like die cast, and it's making articulation really stiff. So you do have movement in the hands. The arms can go this much. They can close. You guys can move them in this direction. So you guys do get the idea. They don't really close that much. That's the best that you can do articulation in this section, because they do end up hitting this section, but they don't really meet at the same time. So that is unfortunate. They don't really go in and out that much. So articulation is going to be limited. You do get like your basic articulation for the die cast, and around the chest area, no articulation, nothing right here. So it is sort of disappointing, and I'll get to that later on. Now for this section, you actually can open them up. It is quite difficult sometimes, but you do get to reveal his missiles, which is sort of cool. It's a cool feature, I suppose, but it's not really that impressive. You guys can see they close and then they go in. Now for people confused where the die cast is at, this is actually a die cast. This whole section is die cast right here. Now I do have a trick to tell what's die cast and what's not, and I'll tell you later on. Now this part is extremely delicate, and if you thought the arms, the hands were extreme and not with much articulation, the legs are more next level. You'll see what I mean by that. So articulation, they do go forward this much, and they kick backwards that much. They go in and out, side to side this much. Now for the knee section, they do kick backwards that much. They go forwards this much, and you guys can also see whenever you do bend them, you guys can see the hydraulics or the pistons do get revealed. Now actually this is die cast. All this is actually die cast, which is a good part, but I'll get into that later on. Now this part does go backwards and that much whenever you do kick the legs, the feet, the claws, whatever you want to call them. They go forwards, backwards that much, forwards this much, and same thing happens in the front section. Whenever you do kick forwards, this part moves. Obviously this part is die cast. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it is die cast. They move side to side, they go in and out that much. It has to be the best part for this figure, I would say. I was really impressed. I was not expecting this type of articulation on the tail. It's very impressive. You guys can see all the articulation and how smooth this actually feels. I think one of the parts that I do like about this is it has that smooth type of feeling with this figure compared to other tails like Godzilla or Kiryu or from their Mechagodzilla line. This tail just simply feels impressive. It feels very much natural, and you do get crazy poses. You guys can see how much you guys can actually move the tail with the figure, which is extremely crazy. Really nice. But the down part about the tail is that you can't do the alien pose like Godzilla Ultima. Really nice articulated tail, and it's probably the best articulated tail that feels smooth on a Monsterarts Mechagodzilla figure. Hands, they do move around, no real articulation right there. They do come with extra accessories, if you can call them that. You do have a pair of switchable hands or fingers, claws, and they are extremely detailed, sort of. You guys can actually see like the little details inside of the fingers. No articulation, to be honest. They feel rather cheap, and honestly, I think they could have totally just not used this at all. It was very easy to add articulation on this section for them to have each individual finger move in and out with articulation. Pretty much. Am I really impressed with this figure? I would have to say it's a great, but not the best or really impressive. From a scale from 10 to 0, I would give it probably a 5, at most a 6.9. And I'll talk about that later on. In terms of color, it's a really plain type of metallic color. Not the worst, but not the best at the same time. For people wondering where's the red at, I know exactly what you're talking about. The only red parts that we actually get to see on the figure would be on the dorsal plates, where you do get to see the red on it. And of course, the eyes are done in a very shiny metallic red, which actually looks really nice, versus this that doesn't really pop out and you don't really get to see the red overall. It's sort of missing. It gets lost with all the metallic color. The metallic color is done in a very clean metallic silver. It's not really like dry brush. There's no damage, there's no oil on this figure. This would be like the first version of Mechagodzilla Awakening, rather than the final battle of Mechagodzilla coming out, and you see all the dirt, you see all the blacks on it, the dry brush type of colors all over it. You guys see the power of red going through his body, and it's not really present in this figure. Making it out to be the final version of Mechagodzilla, you can say it's the powered down version of Mechagodzilla. With that being said, it is still one of the best figures out there in terms of 3D details and accuracy. Comparing this to Bandai and others that have came out, Monsterarts is currently offering the best Mechagodzilla with the best articulation, but at the same time, we do know that this is not the best that they could have done. And they did, we all know for the hands, they could have used real articulation instead of offering something cheap that doesn't feel right and make it more complicated for fans. I feel like this figure really missed out on easy areas that could have improved with a life improvement over time, and they definitely skipped on that. So I will be giving you guys now my negatives and things that I would like to see be fixed for the future on this figure. Giving you guys my feedback, my personal feedback. Yes, it does have die cast. I know people don't feel the weight of the die cast, and that's supposed to be the point, making it feel heavy, like you have a premium figure on your hands. Now the die cast is used on some key areas like articulation, on the hands, on the arms, on the legs, and the thing is, I feel like they missed the most important parts to die cast. Like number one, yesterday I had this figure on this particular table display, and out of nowhere, I don't know how, but this figure fell. It fell in this pose going down, and if you guys take a look at the dorsal plates, they're not die cast. As I was mentioning, why couldn't they use die cast on the dorsal plates? I think it's a key area that really should have benefited from the die cast. That way people could have felt all the way through the head going down through the tail. You would have felt the weight a lot easier instead of having this plastic sort of dorsal plates, which could eventually break if this figure actually falls like it did on me yesterday. Really good part is that no damage was taken to the figure, but I could really see them breaking off if it was a much higher height going down on the figure. Another part where diecast could have definitely benefited, and I don't see why they didn't use it. It's a no-brainer. The pistons, the hydraulics. I unfortunately had a broken one right out of the package. You guys can see it was on this part, which I mentioned at the beginning of the video. They just came in damaged. Nothing that could be done anymore because the ball joint pretty much broke. This is the part that actually came in broken, so you guys can see how it's actually broken. There's no way for me to fix it, and that really sucks. It's actually plastic with ball joints. So what I had to do is I was like, okay, it actually makes articulation worse. So for articulation, if you were to have them back together, it would go this much. You would not be able to kick forward to go backwards like I'm doing right here, because those things make articulation very limited. So I thought to myself, if you knew this is a very delicate area that could potentially break it, you do see it on the instructions, why didn't you go the extra mile to actually make them with die cast? It's a no-brainer. Very big missed opportunity in my opinion. Very bad on their behalf, because for example, they're using die cast where it makes no sense. They're using die cast right here, which has no real purpose. They're using die cast right here on the chest. All this is actually die cast, and I mentioned, yes, it is using die cast right here on those hydraulics, but what I'm trying to say is, why is this figure using die cast in the wrong areas? What I'm trying to say is die cast was misused in areas that really don't make any sense, areas that really don't benefit this figure at all. For example, on this area, because of the die cast, I'm pretty sure that's why we don't even have any articulation for the figure to actually crunch down like you see with the Monsterarts Godzilla, because of the die cast. They could have really easily just made a cut right here and make this figure actually bend in and out really easily. It doesn't take away from the design. I wanted to get the full potential of this figure, and I do recommend it. I recommend you to actually just remove those pieces so you don't break them trying to pose them in a different way here and there with your legs, because you can actually break them like with this piece that came in broken right out of the package. Imagine during shipping, this is what happened. Now imagine what's going to happen if you do mess with them. And I'm not gonna lie, they do look pretty awesome. It's part of the original design, don't get me wrong. I understand what they were trying to do, but the execution was not done in the right way. Now this figure is particularly very expensive. For my opinion, though I think it's actually worth it. Currently, no, I don't think it's worth that much money. I think a better price point for this figure, for what it offers, should have been $120 at most. This should not be considered an exclusive figure. It has nothing exclusive, nothing special to make this really pop out compared to other figures. It has no real accessories like his photon scream, photon blast, no missiles, no real articulation. It feels like a half-baked cake or something that didn't fully get to its point where it was supposed to be. Asking for $159 plus shipping, almost paying $200 for this particular figure is definitely not worth it. So if you were on the fence, you were trying to decide, should I pick this up or not? I don't recommend it. There's better figures out there for a better price. It is, don't get me wrong, a really amazing figure in terms of design, but articulation, not that much. Die cast didn't deliver. It just feels like it was half-baked, and really big missed opportunities with accessories, with articulation. And I'm sure they're going to make a battle damage later down the road, possibly with better articulation, more accessories, and finally they're going to add the red or the blue that was supposed to be on this figure. Now, I understand people were expecting something else, but at the same time, it is disappointing not to see this fully be painted. You are someone that has to complete the full collection with Godzilla and Kong, finally with Mechagodzilla, then yeah, I think you will have to pick up this figure before it becomes really expensive. Now we're going to get to the size, which is very, I don't know how to explain it, but I have seen some people complain about the size, that it's too big. One last trick for people asking, how can I tell what's die cast on this figure? An easy trick would be get a magnet, put it around the body, whatever it sticks, that's die cast metal. Now another trick is to actually put the figure in your refrigerator and let it cool down, and whenever you touch it, the die cast, it's going to feel extremely cold. That's how you know that area is actually die cast. Sometimes you can tell by simply touching the figure like I am, And it does have quite some die cast on the feet, on the hydraulics right here on the back. For articulation around the knees, this part is die cast. All this part is actually die cast. This section on the hands and arms is die cast. But again, I think they misused the die cast in the most important areas. Now for a size comparison. Okay, so this is them fully standing straight as much as possible. Now you do see a big difference between Mechagodzilla and Godzilla. Now I do believe this is 7.5 inches or 7.8 inches. It is almost hitting the 8-inch mark. And I believe the S.H.Monsterarts Godzilla is 6.7 inches tall, around there. So it's not that big. But a lot of people seem to be complaining that Mechagodzilla is actually way too big for them to be in scale with each other. Here we have Kong, which a lot of people are saying this is not right. Mechagodzilla is way too tall, way too big to be in scale with those figures. Talking about the size, do I believe Mechagodzilla is out of scale compared to Kong and Godzilla? I would have to say no. I think Mechagodzilla has the perfect size. I know a lot of YouTubers and people were saying that it seems like he is way too big, but you have to remember, and I'll put that on the screen right now, their size. Kong was actually super short compared to both of them. Godzilla was around 390 something, almost 400 feet. Mechagodzilla was almost 500 feet tall. He was like 460 something. And if you do remember, on the movie, whenever both of them came face to face with each other, Mechagodzilla was towering Godzilla. Especially, you guys can tell the differences in size when they do the beam clash. You see Mechagodzilla is way taller, and you do have to keep in mind Mechagodzilla was always designed to be the better alpha, taller, more menacing. He is, after all, Ghidorah. He does have part of Ghidorah inside of his mind, inside of his body. So you do have to remember that King Ghidorah is actually very tall compared to Godzilla as well. So it does make sense for Mechagodzilla to rival Godzilla, the alpha, in some way. And that's how you see it. You see it with his height. His height towers and pretty much tells Godzilla that he is the Mecha Alpha between both of them. Now, I do understand that in the movie sometimes they seem to be in scale with each other, but that's because Godzilla is not fully standing straight. He's sort of hunched over with his legs and his stomach. But yes, Mechagodzilla is supposed to tower big time over Kong and Godzilla. And for people that don't believe me, I'll put information on the video with their height differences, and that way you get a better idea. And I believe it's perfectly fine. But I will say something. I will say that I believe Kong can definitely receive an upgrade. They could definitely make him a little bit bigger in figure form. He does have lots of problems with his feet. Standing straight is such a pain. I believe Kong and Godzilla could definitely receive an upgrade to make them be in this scale, probably in the future. Both of them are a very nice package. All of them together, they do scale very nicely together.